All right, guys, welcome to the great state of Texas. I got my John Wayne mug with me this morning, and you gotta have a John Wayne mug if you live in Texas, right? So it's quite large, but it holds enough coffee for me. So I'll set that down there. So, guys, we're going to get into a series here, and this first one we're going to talk about the three biggest fears in offline recruiting. The three biggest fears in offline recruiting. Why do we want to talk about these? Because when it comes to this offline recruiting, and we're going to get into this series is going to deal with, I'm going to have 4 or 5 good videos here where we're going to talk in blog posts, where I'm going to talk about getting into conversations with people in the offline world, people that you typically don't know, or people that you just met, and comfortably, not awkwardly, but comfortably, getting them into a good conversation where they're actually kind of divulging to you some of their pain points. And this is the ideal situation because you want people to, and when you're in network marketing, multi-level marketing, you want people to complain about their pain points. You want them to complain about how their life is not going the way they always pictured it to be or the way they planned it to be. It's a frustration that a lot of people have. Most people deal with these frustrations at one point or another, some over much longer term or most of their lives, in fact. The thing that knocks out 95%, let's just say this, 95 to 98% of the people that get into network marketing or that start in network marketing either fail or quit or they go company hopping. And the reason they do this is because of these obstacles that I'm going to present in this series. The biggest of the three are these three fears. And they are probably what account for 60 to, I would say, 80% of those 95%. Just saying, I can't do this. I don't have the skills for it. So I want to give you the skills. I want to teach you guys the struggles that I went through, the pain points that I had, why it was so difficult for me to succeed in the beginning, why it's difficult for any of you to succeed in the beginning. And we want to talk about these as being the biggest obstacles to your success. So if you're doing any offline recruiting at all, and really if you're doing any online recruiting, which we teach you in our online course, you're still going to have to deal with people at some point. You're still going to have to talk to them. You're going to have to get into conversations with them. You may meet them online, but then you're going to get into maybe email conversations or Skype calls, or you may actually meet them in person if they live close enough to you, or if one of you flies to meet the other. So if people are going to be on your team in a multi-level marketing organization, you've got to learn to deal with them. So now, what are the three fears? Let's just go over those real fast. The first two of these fears always tend to lead to or threaten to lead to the third one. And we'll get to that in just a second. That's rejection. The first of these is the fear of what other people think. And when we say other people, we're talking about the people that you're speaking with, the people that you're meeting that work at a gas station or a restaurant or out in a parking lot, or you're waiting in line somewhere, wherever you happen to meet them, or a friend referred them to you and introduced you. These are it's the fear of what do they think of me, and the fear of I can't present an opportunity because they'll shoot me down. I mean, they'll just think I'm some kind of weird salesman out of the just hit them out of the blue. So that one leads to and is kind of associated with the fear of rejection. We'll get to that in just a second. The next one is the fear of what other people think about you. Now this one is kind of sly because what we're talking about with this one is, let's say I get into a conversation with somebody, and I'll use somebody that works at a convenience store as an example. They're an employee that works at a convenience store, and I've actually used my skills we're going to teach you, to get into a conversation with this person, and I'm talking to them, and I present them with some line of questions about, do they enjoy what they're doing? Do they enjoy their job? This fear is, what are the people around me? In other words, if we're sitting in a restaurant and I'm presenting a business opportunity to somebody, traditionally, what do the people around me think? Are they going to think I'm crazy? Do I need to just kind of watch what I say to this person? Do I need to be embarrassed about what I'm saying? That's the second of the two fears. Again, both of these lead to the fear of rejection. Now, what is the fear of rejection? Fear of rejection is a primal, primitive brain fear that we have. It's directly connected with the fight or flight. In other words, if we sense any danger from the time the earliest human beings existed on the earth, this is developed in us biologically. It's a natural fear. It's a fear of, if I sense that something is dangerous, anything is dangerous, or that it might bring harm to me in any way, my brain associates that with fight or flight. So maybe I need to run. Maybe I need to get out of there. All of you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is also directly related to the primal fear of, if I'm rejected from the tribe, if I'm ostracized from the tribe, I could die. And that's a primitive aspect of every human being that exists on the earth at this point. Now, after we've dealt with those, really the way to conquer a fear is to first define, the way to conquer any problem is to define the problem first. So what is the definition of fear? Let's get to that. The definition of fear, if you look this up, in most dictionaries and most encyclopedias, everywhere you look this up online, you're going to get pretty much the same definition. But fear is your emotional response to a situation that is happening right now, or a situation or something, an event that might happen. And therein lies the key. Therein lies the solution. It is an emotional response. It is your response to it. The way we know this is because you can take a situation that might create fear for some and not for others. You can actually take two people, put them in the same situation, and one of those people might feel fear, and the other one might not. And it's all based on their emotional response and their internal thinking about what they interpret about that situation. So the way to conquer fear is to define it and understand that it is your emotional response. It is your thinking processes. So the reality of fear is that you can kind of get into the present moment. A lot of people that use meditation will get into the present moment, and they'll only think about, in other words, you can try this. You can shut your eyes right now, and you can only think about the sounds that you hear right now. Think about the colors that you know exist in the room around you, or in the place around you if you're outside. Just the sounds, the colors, the sensations that you're currently feeling right now. And that's the way to stop the voice of what might happen or what has already happened. What might happen and what has already happened. See, we're always constantly thinking about the future or the past, what might occur, what could happen, or what has happened and we've got regrets about it, or how could it have been different. You know, we obsess about this as human beings. Seldom, and to get that voice to shut off in your head, you've got to tune all of that out and just simply think about the present moment. Now, I've heard people say this is why they call it the present, because it is a gift to you to get focused and to clear out all of those thoughts that we constantly have all of our waking hours about the future and the past. The future and the past. So, keep that in mind and understand that that is a mechanism for shutting off all the voices of worry and anxiety that happen in your head related to any kind of fear. The other thing you have to realize is that 90% of the things we fear don't really come true. So let's take these for instance. Fear of what others think. If you stand in front of someone, they don't know what you're thinking or feeling. They have no idea. All they know is based on your body language. So if you're confident about what it is you're talking about and you're confident talking to them, they have no idea. They think you're an expert at whatever it is you do. Keep that in mind. Always be objective about your situation. What about what other people think? Are they going to laugh at me? Are they going to ridicule me for putting on a sales presentation to somebody else, no. I'd say 99% of the time, that's just not going to happen. I've yet to have this happen to me. The one time I did have somebody actually, a third party actually laugh at me for something. It wasn't for a business presentation, but it was for something, a serious conversation that we were having, and it was something that I said, and this person I found out later was actually just released out of no joke, a mental institution. So, and it was a woman, she was just, just really, off the wall. That 99% of the time is not going to happen. In fact, what most people think is, wow, this guy or this lady really knows what they're talking about. And I dare not interrupt them because, I might look bad. That's their thinking process. They're not thinking, I'm going to laugh and jeer at this guy, or I'm going to laugh and jeer at this lady because of what she's saying to this other guy over here. That's not what they're thinking at all. So come back to a reality, not only think about the present, but come back to a reality of what these fears actually mean to you. It's all, most of it up here. The fear of rejection. Let's face it, folks, we don't live in tribes anymore. If you're ostracized from one group, there are 7 billion people on the planet. I'm sure you can find some other group that you can be inclusive in. You've got to think about that the right way and understand that that's where that stems from. So here are 4 steps that you can take to kind of start getting a grasp on these fears and any fears that you have. And I'll use an example of a fear of heights that I've always had in just a second and how I've kind of overcome that. The first thing you want to do is think about that fear. And think about, either place yourself in that fear or that situation that causes the fear, and think about, kind of rate it on a scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10. What is my level of fear that I feel about this? Is it significant? Is it off the scale? Is it at the top? Or is it just minimal and something that maybe I can overcome really easily? What is my level of fear with that? The second thing is you want to try to gain a skill set in the area of that fear. When it comes to conversations, this is what we teach you, and I teach you this in the free video course. You want to gain the skill set with a few scripts, not all scripted, but a few scripts that give you the things that you need to do to make that conversation really comfortable for you. A few things that you can say to make it better. So gain a skill set that helps you get better at that fear where you're in control of it, not the other way around. The other one is imagine a similar situation to that thing or that situation that causes fear, and imagine it completely different. In other words, imagine when you're talking to a stranger, and I use this example, but you can do this with anything. Imagine when you're talking to a stranger that you're talking to a good friend of yours that you've known for 20 years. And just observe yourself. And that brings us to the 4th point, which is have a body awareness. Now, I want to talk about my fear of heights. I've always had a fear of heights. I've learned to kind of conquer it quite a number of ways. Now, that doesn't stop me from climbing up into tall observation decks and wanting to look down on big cities and climb up to the tops of mountain peaks and look over the edge of things. But it still makes me nervous when I come up to the edge of something that's really high off the ground, because the fear aspect is what your mind imagines it would be like if you fell off of that. That's just a fear of heights. Your mind also goes through all kinds of situations of, oh, I might jump off of that. No, not going to happen. So what I began to notice, and you need to do this too, is that in my body, whenever I would get up on a high place and that fear of heights would kind of start to take over, I started to notice my palms would get sweaty and the fronts of my thighs would kind of get quivery and shaky. I felt like I was not as secure on my standing up as I always needed to be when I was secure on the ground. So you observe these things. Now, by observing how your physical body reacts to that emotion, now you're really getting into the aspect of, okay, I can conquer this fear because I know what I do and what I feel like when this thing happens, when this situation occurs. If it's a fear of a conversation with a third party, I already know what to expect whenever that happens, so I can overcome that. And by facing that fear and by approaching that fear situation over and over again, you will actually conquer it. So a set of questions that you can kind of ask yourself to overcome this is sit there and think, why am I thinking this? Why am I thinking this right now? Why am I having this emotion? Why am I feeling this? Or another one is, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to myself? And is it helping me? Is it helping me? Is it hurting me? You know, just be extremely objective about your fear, especially when it comes to conversations. Most people are not going to bite you, and they're not going to get into a fight with you unless you threaten them or you start an aggravated situation. And that's not the intent of most of us. All we're trying to do is get into a conversation about them and get to know them. Find out what their pain points are. So another thing you can kind of say to yourself is, I don't have to do this right now. And that kind of directly ties to what I teach you in the free video course, which is you don't need to worry about the outcome of any situation. You don't need to worry about that. The only time you need to worry about the outcome of a situation is if you're in a job interview. But we're not here to get a job interview. We're here to just talk to people and get to know them. So don't put any weight on the outcome. And don't feel any pressure from your opportunity or that you need to say something right now. No, you don't. So I don't have to do this right now. Now, don't let that make you procrastinate, but you get the point. So be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of how your feet feel on the ground. Be aware of how your hands feel, how your body feels. And focus on the present moment, like I was talking about, and you will shut off all of the chatter that goes on in everybody's mind. All of the chatter about worrying about the future, what might happen here, or worrying about the past and what has already occurred or how it could be different. Or could I have learned something better, or coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Okay? Those are the past, and mights or could-bes are the future. So to turn off that chatter, get focused in the present moment and just think about what is happening right now, in the present moment. What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I hearing? So I want you guys to check out the other videos I've got in this series. We're going to go through an entire series of this to get through these fears in dealing with offline recruiting and prospecting. But to overcome these right here is to get past the biggest obstacle that stops most people in network marketing. The three biggest fears in offline recruiting are the three big boogie monsters that try to knock a lot of people out, and they are successful at that. It never ceases to amaze me that sponsors don't seem to understand this. Even people that are successful in network marketing don't seem to understand this. They don't understand that if you would just train these new trainees, these new people that have signed up, the right way and get them to pass this, give them tools to make this happen, you'd have a team that was growing phenomenally. Teach them how to train that to their new people, and it will grow like nobody's business. So again, from the great state of Texas, I want to thank you for watching these videos and look forward to seeing you in the next videos.